everybody, this is Rob from Billion Oyster Project, and I am here in Bushwick Inlet to check on one of our ORSs, our oyster research stations. So I'm just going to pull it out of the water and we'll see what's growing in it and on it and around it. Okay? Before we do that though, let's take a minute to situate ourselves in the harbor. Bushwick Inlet is a small protected cove on the Brooklyn side of the East River. In the old days, the inlet was the mouth of a marshy creek, one of many that used to run in Brooklyn. Later, it became a place for waterfront industry and shipbuilding. The hull of the USS Monitor, the famous Civil War ironclad, was built here. Starting about 10 years ago, the city began acquiring land around the inlet to create a new waterfront park to connect the neighborhoods of Greenpoint and Williamsburg. However, because much of the soil around the inlet is contaminated, a lot of environmental remediation will be needed before the park is complete. In the meantime, the Billion Oyster Project is working with community groups including the Friends of Bushwick Inlet Park, the Monitor Museum, and the North Brooklyn Boat Club to explore the possibilities for oyster restoration in the inlet. That's why we installed this floating oyster platform 2 years ago. We come back every few months to check on the growth and the health of the oysters, usually by hosting a community monitoring event with our partners. Turns out we're not the only ones who like the oyster platform. All right, let's get back to this cage. Okay, so what you can see this whole cage, first of all, the lid is loose. It came loose in there. And then you see all this incredible growth all over the outside. Bring that camera right in close. See, these are called tunicate colonies. They're kind of amazing. Different colors, star tunicates if you get in really close. And they've completely overgrown this whole cage. And let's see if we can see if we can even find an oyster. There's an oyster. Nice big one. And you can also see, this is interesting, that the oyster itself has been colonized by another mollusk, which is a mussel. And there seem to be a lot of mussels growing on top of the oysters. But this is one of the arguments for oyster reefs, is that they're good for oysters, obviously, but they're good for everything else. All kinds of other stuff lives in here, in and around and in all these nooks and crannies. Our plan at Bushwick Inlet, someday we would like to put in what we call a reef, which is a big installation of oysters that sit on the bottom and grow out. You've got to imagine this place full of a park on the edges and oysters growing on the rocks and a reef down the middle and people kayaking around. This is really going to be a fantastic place.